Hello everybody. I'm going to be doing something a little bit different today. I played in an over-the-board game, first round of the Cincinnati City Championship. So instead of playing a rapid game, I'm going to go over the first game of this tournament. I think I'm going to title this like a Journey to 2200 over the board, or something along the lines of Quest for National Master or something like that. So it is my end goal for over the board right now. But anyway, let's go ahead and review the game. So I played white versus Charles Dawes, who I played before. He played the King's Indian the last time I played him, but here he played the E6 instead of G6 or D6. And normally I play knight f6 here, but we've been building in a different direction lately. Knight c3, simply because I'm very comfortable in the bishop, the Nimzo Indian now, having discovered the e3 way to play, which is the positional lines that I play where, let's just throw a line out here. Bishop here, e3, castles. I'm not super familiar, but something along the lines of I don't know how to draw arrows in chess space apparently. Okay, building up an attack in the center, and generally, okay, this is online, so over the board probably different, but people go after this weak c pawn and often underestimate the attack, which usually gets me an advantage. But that's the reason why I switched to knight c3, just because I enjoy those lines more now. But he plays d5, which is, we're kind of transitioning into a straight up queen's gambit declined. I can play knight f3 here, but I think bishop g5 is the I think it's called the traditional variation, but pretty sure they can take here as like a book move, and I'm not so easily recapturing the pawn. I've definitely add notation here. I don't want to like spoil the game, but not references. Just based sometimes has issues here, but yeah, okay. So like d takes c4, e3. Maybe I'm just wrong. I thought there was a variation. Maybe the variation is before I get my knight out, or like a knight f3, bishop c. Yeah, I'm actually thinking of knight f3, bishop here, which is what I used to play, but I don't play that anymore. So I guess it's not an option anymore. Anyway, he doesn't do any of that. He just plays normally, which I felt like was a pattern in this game where I don't know, I just felt very comfortable the whole game. So I close off the, I play e3 now that my bishop's outside the pawn chain. Now I'm not too worried about any of these Queen's Gambit accepted lines, which, as much as I want to be familiar with them, it is a hole right now in my repertoire, I'm sure. But I'm working on it. That's why I'm an early capture guy, because oftentimes it's not a great move for white, but it's not like equalizing, or well, it might be equalizing, but it's not. I have positional play, which is what I'm comfortable with. And you might have noticed in my rapid games, I've been playing a lot of knight f3 just straight away. Here I've waited longer. Since it's a 2-hour game, I feel a lot more comfortable going in, like figuring out these tougher lines. So I've delayed taking an extra move, and now that his knight's blocking his bishop, it's a lot easier for me to get my pieces out in a way that's comfortable, because normally the bishop just comes in and annoys the shit out of me, but not in these lines. And here I play the man idea. You've seen this before in a couple games. I don't think it's worked out too well for me in rapid, but the key idea in my opening, which admittedly isn't the best idea, although I see there's actually one game here played Let me move my face down here. My face that's not even on the screen. And we're back in. I'm gonna wave my hand on the screen so I can find this moment in the video. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so my main idea is to get rid of the bishop pair, which I'm pretty sure a lot of players who are better than me will not like this idea, because it's, and by that I mean they'll think it's bad, because I'm giving up the bishop pair unprovoked. He hasn't played h6 yet, but my idea is to deflect the bishop from b4, which normally to start a minority attack you play rook b1, b4, and it's a big thing. But by taking here, we sacrifice the bishop pair, and we get b4 in right away. And it looks like this has actually been, I didn't see this before, but it looks like this has actually been played by a very high rated player, because I see one game where ELO average was 2700, so let me see that game. And it loads. It was played by Draken versus Andrew Tang. The same idea in a blitz game, so that's probably not theoretically too good. Let me switch to that. But it's like a fun, like, catch people off guard idea. And if I'm playing a player much lower rated than me, I'm not sure. Or if I'm playing like a game where I want to be comfortable and just make things imbalanced, I think this is a fun way to do it. It's the same idea, but if you don't play b4, it's just bad, but the whole point is to play b4. And the idea is we're gonna send these pawns and try to create weaknesses on the queen side while all the pieces are still on the board. That's the goal. Now rook c1, I don't understand, but maybe if I watch the game I'll understand. I'm guessing a weakness is that okay, another thing, the reason why I play this is once the knight moves here, committing to b5, sometimes you can have this b5 and then the knight reroutes into this hole on c4. But when the knight's committed to f8 and the maneuver is in the game, he actually took way earlier. I guess because it's a blitz game, it doesn't really matter. But anyway, once the knight's committed to f8, it takes like a whole extra move, and that whole extra move is significant because in the time it takes for you to get your knight into the hole, we usually have created some sort of play. But b5, so he's not even playing for a minority attack, which interesting. But everything's coming off anyway. It's just to open up the center while he's slightly better developed. This is a Title Tuesday blitz, so probably not the best quality game, but I'm like, what was his idea with rook c1? I guess he's anticipating b5. And e5 here. Oh, this is a very strange exchange to me. Okay, let's dive deeper into this. So he counterpunches with e4 immediately, which I guess is an option because why? Why isn't an option? We're down a pawn here, but the pawn we're down, oh, that's not, the pawn we're down is a backwards passer. Sorry, not a back, I always say that, backwards passer, it's just a backwards pawn. And maybe there's some sacrifice ideas, but what does he play here? He plays queen c2. Oh, he wins the pawn back, okay. Because both these pawns are now hit. So basically the whole line leads, well, in this position he just has greater activity. But it's crazy to me that he recognizes that. I guess he just intuitively knows that he's always going to have this move. I mean, you can kind of see it through all the jumble. Why does it? There you go. Just base is just not a great place to be. Okay. I'm just trying to understand. Okay, yeah. So this idea is based on, I feel like, the fact that he has the intuition that he's always going to have this queen maneuver and hit both these pawns. It just requires the knight to be cleared out, which it probably is, in most cases, going to be cleared out. And also, this pawn can't take here because there's too much pressure on b5. So he's basically opening up the center while he's slightly ahead in development. And that's what his game plan was. And as you can see, it kind of worked out for him. Just up a pawn, 2 pawns, gains winning. Interesting. So he didn't play it at all like I played it because I'm assuming Andrew Tang knows how to defend against the minority attack. So anyway, but here b4, castles. Hey guys, recorded about 20 minutes of video, but unfortunately I was still on the other screen and did not switch games, so all that was to waste. But it's pretty late, so I'm going to just quickly recap what happened. I just think I just played b4, just went over that idea. Things continue pretty well. Again, rook c1, anticipating that b5 is going to be blocked. That's the correct option. But I just assumed my minority attack is going to work, so in that vein of thought, queen b3 is the move I played. And then I felt like he played inaccurately with b6 because b5 allows queen takes, which seems to work. Just win a pawn. So his alternative is bishop here, which is what he played in the game. Bishop takes, and now I'm going to be able to get my weakness eventually. So I think I'm just slightly better here. But I think he has the potential to develop his pieces enough to where he can hold on. And by hold on, of course, mean make my position look bad. So like a4, for example, which is what I played. I don't think I should be starting any kingside. I think the most direct critical thing is just to get our weakness. Generally a better outcome for black is to end up with a backwards pawn on c6, because then they only have one weakness to defend. But in these types of positions where they either take the b pawn, or in this weird one where they allowed us to capture on c6, they're always going to end up with 2 weaknesses they have to defend, which is never good. But anyway, a4 seems like the most direct option, in line with how I've done my other pieces, or sorry, in line with my initial plan. Don't think there's really room for any kingside initiative, especially with this bishop. I've given up the bishop pair, but this bishop is clogged by this pawn. I want this pawn to be here. This pawn's actually benefiting me, because without it, I'd think he'd be very happy in this position. If he had like material equality and this pawn off, things would be going well for him with the bishop pair. But that pawn is there, so his light squared bishop is looking rather unhappy. But anyway, we get a5 in. And he takes, which during the game I didn't think was the best move. I think he should have developed one of his rooks and kept the pawn on the b file, as by taking, not only am I doubling up my rook, but my rook was already on the a file, so I'm like super fast to this weakness. The computer doesn't like that though, which is very interesting to me. It wants bishop here. I guess this is going to fall anyway, and this is my chance to get the bishop pair back. and even though this is a bad bishop, it's kind of blocking like center play for me, because really positionally I don't want to open this up. And not to mention that this square is super reinforced by this bishop. But once this bishop comes off, again, we'll have the bishop pair. There, the bishop pair advantage is gone for my opponent. And now maybe we have more. E4 is a better option, or an existing option. But anyway, we play rook takes a5. He goes knight c7. We play rook fa1. Pretty weird move. We play knight c7 there. I feel like you just can't defend the pawn after this. I was predicting something along the lines of rerouting the bishop. Maybe try to get some sort of kingside attack or initiative or something like that. But you know, it doesn't seem to be on his agenda. And even in that time, even in that sequence, it's still very hard to protect that pawn. But what was I saying? Yeah, like here, rook back. Oh, I guess rook up. Never mind. Well, now I'd have to move my rook back, right? I guess I have an intermezzo with bishop here. But if rook back, then I felt like he was saving the pawn. Sorry, at least for a moment, not rook takes. But then again, I think my knight active there. But again, it's hard to tell. Anyway, here he just loses the pawn. Queen c2 is an interesting note. Instead of taking the pawn right away, we go queen c2 to prevent him from being able to play rook g1 with tempo after bishop takes. This just seems like a better version for him. So by playing queen c2, which threatens this pawn, he has to respond. And now when we take the pawn, he can't play rook g2 with tempo. I was expecting something along the lines of like bishop here, and then taking. I feel like he's just up a tempo, especially given what happened in the game where he plays bishop f1 later anyway. But he takes right away, and now this is kind of awkward for him because his light squared bishop is pinned to the dark squared bishop, which is again another validation of the queen c2 move to bait this out, because now his pieces are just slightly that much more uncoordinated. But he plays rook c8, which makes sense. Asking a question, possibly pinning my bishop, pinning my knight to my queen. I decided to use this time to create a c8 square, kind of an easy improving move. But as we'll see coming up, I'm kind of like start running out of easy improving moves. So he goes bishop back, and now my position has a lot of options, and I have like a lot of ways forward, which made it very difficult for me to play. I didn't spend too much long on this move. I think I wanted to play queen b2 to prevent him from claiming this open file. But keep in mind, after bishop here, my idea is to play rook a7. But bishop here would be working towards claiming the open file. But obviously after rook a7, he can't play rook b. Let me just play it out. If he plays rook b8 here, I'd take, and I win a pawn, and that would be winning because should be winning because I have two pawns, even though I use the bishop pair. So queen's going this way, and this is what happens in the game. But instead of obviously that move, I looked at this and I was like, This is for some reason what I expected him to play. I'm like, well, yeah, now I can play here because the bishop's not threatening to take, even though computer-wise, I don't think the computer cares about that. I was kind of concerned about... okay, well, let's evaluate this position, because this is like the main crux of like where I need to develop a plan. I spent a lot of time in this move agonizing over what to do, and the computer pretty much says every plan is okay, except for like knight here. But even like knight here, bishop here, the computer says it's okay, but I'm like very concerned about this. It wants me to reroute to e3. And I think the idea is that I just have the better minor piece. And I can always play around that. Although in my head, practically, I was concerned about his two big pieces coming down the light squares, but didn't end up causing any problems. The computer doesn't seem to care, but I care. So that's why I was very afraid of entering this type of position. The other idea I had was knight here, but for some reason I was worried about bishop here. And I felt like maybe there was a dream scenario for him where he gets like rook here and queen here, but even in that scenario, my rook gets out, although it does feel a little bit offsides over here. For example, I mean, I guess I get a whole move here, don't I? But I was worried about rook here. I guess queen a1 prevents. Well, if he goes queen here, oh, I just take the knight, so I get a tempo against the bishop, which is why that doesn't work. But I didn't see that during the game. So I end up deciding on queen b4, which computer says is okay. I think I like queen b4. My original plan, though, was not what was ended up playing. I ended up first I wanted queen a4 because I thought that after the queen comes off, I'm by force winning this pawn, but it's not the case. His first only move to protect it is bishop here, and then I was going to go rook here, and then I imagined bishop here, knight takes, bishop here, and then I thought I was going to get knight takes and check, but obviously the bishop can take. So after he played bishop e6, I had to change my plan. But here I thought queen b3 prepares e4 almost. I noticed that this x-ray against this pawn was probably my key to opening up the center. At least it felt that way. And I'm also taking a look at this. So I feel like it's very likely that my opponent will allow me to get play in the center after queen b3. And notice that I could have played queen b3 here, but I think the queen b4 sequence to bait out bishop d6 is still important. So I think I would have transposed similarly, although here there's just more natural pressure against d5, but I'm not sure. I think it's marginal, or maybe I just don't understand it, the differences between the moves. But queen b4, bishop d6, important detail. So now that queen b3 just feels like a doubly extra solid threat. But my opponent doesn't really respond to it. Going h5. Launching a kingside initiative here is weird. I think his position's solid. I say that I probably better, and maybe if he just allows me to build up my pieces, things are gonna go great for him. But it's not an easy thing for me to do. But the attack on the king side seems a little, the pawn storm seems a little ambitious. And here I looked for a very long time at knight d takes d5. And I end up being frightened off by bishop c5. Well, at the very end, I somewhat justified this as being a scary move, even though I can just step back. I didn't register that the bishop moves, this is threatened, but when the rook moves, this isn't threatened. It's only threatened when the queen has eyesight. So that was just a clear miscalculation. But here, this fails to rook e7, forking the king and the rook. And so that wasn't the concern. The concern was, yes, thank you, game. Here we go. The concern was bishop here, which I initially did not see. Knight here, which completely wins on the spot. Knight here, the X-ray is now visible, and he has no way to prevent. I mean, what happens if queen takes, knight takes, bishop takes, and now this fork is valid because the bishop's no longer here. So it's completely winning. Not the easiest thing to see, but knight b6 was the move I missed in my calculation. So what did I actually calculate? So after bishop here, I calculated takes, queen c3, and in this position I stopped because I thought to myself, yeah, I'm winning a pawn, but I feel like I've opened up a very powerful piece for him, and my light squares around my king are particularly weak, and I'm not sure I trust that this knight is enough to protect against this pawn storm and the queen and the bishop and like the back rank. Essentially, if you can tell by all these arrows on the board, I was seeing a lot of ghosts, and yeah, I got scared. Basically, a way I can put it is here I feel like I'm playing for two results, and even though this might be clearly winning, I feel like I've introduced a third possibility where I feel like I can mess up this position after takes. So I end up chickening out, not taking. Something I need to work on is just being very rigorous or very regimental with my calculation when clearly the position is demanding some calculation here. But I got scared off, saw some ghosts, so I just play h4. But then my opponent plays g5. He's going all in on the king side, but as you can see, it just doesn't work. Because after queen takes, we have the same idea of the pin, coming with knight e4, and now, well, knight e4 didn't work here, because obviously, okay, well, let me talk about why e4 didn't work here, because of bishop back, and my rook gets kicked off, and after my rook gets kicked off, you can just take the pawn harassment free, and that's the same idea with knight here at this point. In fact, that just completely loses because obviously I'm losing material here. But now that the queen is on g5, knight is an invaluable resource. I get his most valuable minor piece off and the bishop pair back, and after this my knight will have a permanent outpost on f4, and his bishop is still blocked, and my queen has an avenue to enter the king side. So in this sequence, his position has gone from a solid defense, slightly worse, but now it's completely busted by getting this bishop. And I'm solving the problems that I was having with coordinating my knights and becoming active. Yeah, and then he just blunders the rook at the end there. I'm going to go back to the original video. I have some insight. I brought up a position on LHS, but yeah, hopefully I will not make that mistake in the future because I'm tired and it's super late. But anyway, thank you all for watching, and I will see you, I guess, immediately, but a past version of myself. Anyway, thank you. Here we go. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to set up the position, something along these lines of having the same position, similar position, but if the if those two central pawns were clear and the position was open, I'm pretty sure the computer would analyze this as equal, if not better, for black. Let's just give it black to play. Yeah, it's equal, ignoring whatever random lines it comes up with. But if we go ahead and add these two pawns, I'm pretty sure it's much more favorable for white. Yeah, it's winning for white. So that's my reasoning behind being very extra cautious in taking this pawn, because I feel like I'm inviting counterplay. Even if I'm winning 2 pawns, it just like, it's very significant that these 2 pawns are here. And I think that's actually very interesting that it's 3 whole points. I mean, if you don't have the intuition for that, I mean, this is definitely a position to look at and understand why having these pawns out of the center, the scope of the bishops are much larger. Specifically the light squared bishop, especially now that I've leakened my white squares. Although if this pawn wasn't here, I'd be much less inclined to play b6 when I did. But the pawn is here, so that's why I'm able to play around it. And that's why I want to be extra careful when I take it, because, you know, I'm pretty sure if I remove this pawn, it'll be about the same, because it's up 2 pawns. But what happens if I do? Trash. Here we go. Analysis board. Yeah, it's still winning, but it's not as big of an advantage, despite taking material off for black, which is very interesting. Something to think about for sure. What the hell? Oh, the board is set up backwards. All right, well, ignore everything I just said. We got I don't know why the board is flipped. Ignore literally everything I just said, because terrible things have happened to me. Bishop here, rook, queen, king, king, queen, rook. Good enough. Nope, still a draw. So I was just completely wrong about everything I just said. But okay, hang on. That's drawish. Actually, no, I'm not wrong. I mean, it's both drawish, but this white's definitely better here. Than it was in the other position. Okay, well, my points lost all value because I set up the board backwards. So let's just go back to the game. Let's just pretend like that never happened. I don't know what I'm talking about. But anyway, he plays h5. I don't end up going with takes because of the scary thing I just went over, even though it's probably the correct move, or it definitely is the correct move. Well, it definitely is the correct move because I just missed knight b6 after bishop c5. But we end up playing h4, which is fine. It's safe. It's safe, but it's not necessarily effective. But then he plays g5, which I think is just a blunder. Notice that this pawn is pinned, which means this square is open for a knight. The thing is, I can't use it here, a move prior, because again the bishop will just go back here. And now black's winning material. But with what he's done here, now I can take. After queen takes, notice now this is a big option for me because I'm forking the queen and the bishop, and he can't take because it's going to be checkmate in 2. And he did not play bishop f4. But now the fact that I'm getting this dark short bishop off makes me go from like somewhat winning to like completely winning. His last effective minor piece is this bishop. This bishop, I mean, I guess it can take time to reroute, but it just doesn't have the ability to do that. I think his idea was that like my pieces are somewhat excluded from the king side, and his pieces can kind of access this, and his rook can jump in. But again, he just missed this tactic, I think. G5 is a little aggressive. So we play here, and then we get the dark squared bishop off. And now with knight f5, he can really just never ever break into our position. We're just going to be fine. And his king's actually looking pretty vulnerable here. So we go queen d1. We can take the pawn, but I was worried about things like king sliding over. And his rook and queen coming in. So, well, queen d1 is completely safe because we get the tempo. Because we're threatening a rook fork. And we're threatening a lot. We're threatening to get our queen active against his king. And our pieces are pretty well suited to contribute to that. But he plays queen h6, just missing the fork. We play the fork, and he resigns. So that was round 1. This is a weekly tournament. 1 game a week. Next week I'm actually playing in a bigger major tournament. That's going to be like 6 rounds. But every time I play over the board, I'm probably not going to do a rapid game that day. It's not replacing the series, but just do one thing at a time. Just do some analysis, and I need to practice my analyzing brain, as well as my. These are definitely harder videos to make because it's not as natural. I have to actually make the points that I need to make, and not and not have this like chess game as a medium. But anyway, pretty sure none of that made any sense. But here we are, end of the game, round 1. I think next round we'll play an opponent that's higher rated than us. But we'll see. Hopefully we can claim the city title. I played in the club championship a couple months prior, which I actually won. And that's pretty much the same type of tournament. So, same players at least. So I'm hoping I can win this one. Anyway, thank you all for watching. This has been different content. Hopefully fun, hopefully informative. But who knows? Let me know what you think. See you next time.